Are you ready to join me in transforming fear to freedom? That's the objective of the show. Are you ready to explore with me and my guests? Are you ready to get into the deep and play? This is where it's at, and that's what it's all about. No medical advice here. Use discernment and decide for yourself if the information is right for you.
Welcome back to Let's Get Real, chatting with Catherine and our regular series, Go Deep or Go Home, with Debbie Colleen. And Debbie Colleen and I always play in the deep, so we just decided to call it such. And tonight is going to be no different, and we are going to be exploring conscious creation. And we're going to be talking about affirmations, co-creation, curiosity. And some of those things they seem so obvious, and some of them are so interesting to explore into, and that's the reason why we're having this conversation. A lot of people talk about affirmations today, and I would love to explore with Debbie and find out, how they work, what's the point of them. Some people are just saying words and they don't have any real meaning for them, and they don't really understand them. They're hearing about it. Affirmations is a word that's used a lot these days, so we're going to get into that. And what's this talk about co-creation? It's another area that is so interesting, and it takes us to a different kind of looking at our lives. The concept of co-creation is so complex and deep, and I think it's going to be fun.
All right, and we're back with part 3 of conscious creation, and we are going to get some real tips on how to use affirmations, clarifying what we really want, and a lot more. So let's get into this with Debbie Colleen. We'll start where we ended on part 2.
Everything is working together in a very powerful unfolding of this right time for people to actually have this experience. And every experiment that's ever been created has these turning points where, the experiment gets pointed in a certain direction towards, hopefully, a major discovery. Okay? And that's what we're in, is a big experiment here with many, many experimenters doing each their own part of it to explore what happens when these particular principles are set in motion, working together, the principles of gravity and what goes around comes around, and free will, and conscious creation. This is the time when we actually are at that adult stage where we're ready to move into taking the responsibility for creating our future. This is a time that was foreseen in many, many cultures, and it's a time that is going to happen because it's here. We made it.
Well,
and so it's good to learn about how to do that, but also to learn about what are some of the factors of it. And tonight we're just kind of chewing at the edges of a few different factors that go into conscious creation.
Yes, but I'm also, something is piquing my interest here tonight too, and that is that as this is happening, and as you say, some people are waking up and all that, there's a lot of talk about that. There is also people who have a vested interest. They have been brought up to believe the world, it's sort of like, they've been brought up to believe that the world is flat. And they have a lot invested in that. They have bought into stocks that created these beautiful fences around that square, flat earth, and they've got a lot of money invested and time, and their whole families are involved. I mean, this is just a fictitious scenario, but it seems like it's just about like that they are so invested, and they can be young, but they've grown up in families and in a society that has groomed them in every way to believe in the political systems, the banking system, the environmental beliefs, everything about it that is changing, and it's changing significantly. And they are really digging in their heels. And that's a really
important part of exploration, that those viewpoints and those experiences be represented in the wholeness of what's happening on the planet. There is no right or wrong in this.
Right.
People are unfolding themselves just as they choose to, because they have free will. And in that free will, there is room for every behavior and every experience, recognizing that they all have consequences, of course, because we live in a realm of every action has an equal and opposite reaction, as long as we keep ourselves purely in the physical realm.
But what would you say to someone who is sort of recognizing and happily recognizing, the old systems are finally dying. The old systems of oppression and control and all of those things, they are falling apart, and we're celebrating in that way. So something else is going to replace them. And then, they're also faced with the people who are saying, no, it isn't. Like, how does one allow both, like you say, there's no right or wrong, but both beliefs are perfectly fine and also needed because it's part of everybody's exploration. But what's the best way for someone listening to this show, I'm going to say, is more than likely willing and ready, sort of saying, yes, finally, this stuff is going to end. So how do they handle someone who is not ready to say that and in denial?
Well, for the person who's in denial or not ready, those structures actually will stay in place as long as they truly need them, because we're not destroying anything, we're not oversetting anything, we're metamorphosing into a state where each person will have the structures that they need created by them for this transformation. It's at least a 300-year process. Let's say a 300-year process.
Yes, because I know that I'm not sure.
So what do we have to do?
Yeah.
We have to take care of business at home. How are we? Are we being in the flow of peace? If we're having experiences of conflict with other people, that's something about us.
Okay.
We're choosing that. We're choosing, and there's nothing wrong with that, because there's a place where our understanding of how things happen can come from a place where we start out in conflict and we get out of conflict. It's, there's every different possibility of how people move from one world to another. So if we find ourselves trying to convince other people that we're right and they're wrong, find the flow of peace. Do what you need to do to find peace in your world. Don't go there. Don't do that. Don't talk to that person.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. There are people who are just going to simply walk away from any discussion. They're not going to talk about. And I'm just wondering about that, whether or not there's any.
There's just no right or wrong in it. Everybody's going to do what they're going to do. That's the basis of all psychological changes. You're going to do what you're going to do. And it's like, get out of the way when people are going to do things. Because if we consciously create our life, we have at our fingertips through affirmations and the process that makes affirmations work, we have the perfect tools to move into a world of peace. And everybody on the planet may not be in peace, but if we can stay in peace, we will have peaceful experiences. Much easier said than done in my experience, but certainly not impossible, and that's the learning that creates the peace on the planet. Our learning to move into peace ourselves, with the people around us, is how the planet will learn to come to peace. Because it's us. So we're creating it all.
Okay, but I'm not letting this go yet, because here's the thing. If I'm wanting peace, and let's say I live in a country that is saying we're going to go to war, and I'm saying, that's interesting, because I'm really not interested in war. So as we create our reality, does it mean that, like, my country could still go to war, and I have no control over that, or my elected officials
That's not true. That's not true.
All right.
As soon as you start saying you have no control over things, you're denying your free will. Okay. You have total control over your life.
Okay.
It might not be easy from the place that we're in. It may not be easy to get to where we could go. And terrible, scary things might happen to us. But as we move from one situation to the next, with an understanding that we don't need to be anywhere where there's not war, we do have total power in our own world. And that's what using affirmations and conscious creation is all about, is not saying we have no control over the elected officials. That's just not true. Okay. I was sitting in an airport, grounded. My plane couldn't take off in the fog, and I was watching on the TV the incredible efforts to start a war with Syria that just did not happen. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a lot of people who would disagree that the United States was on an absolute sure path to go to war with Syria.
Yeah,
and
something
happened that didn't happen.
Right.
And how did that happen? Well, people like me sitting and watching the TV and going, no, I'm not for this. No. You know, putting our energy, reaching out and joining with other like-minded people, because, hey, that's what mass consciousness is
right.
Our energy joining with the energy of other people. And it doesn't take very much conscious, creative energy to actually turn the outcome of things into peaceful.
So just really reconfirm that. We always have power, and it
may not be the power that we think we have, and it's probably not a power out there in the physical world. It's probably, I'd say 99% actually likely that it's a power within us to change ourselves. You know, I think about, some of the wars we've had in this country, and lots of people were killed in the wars, in Europe, and people are being killed all the time in wars. And I'm not going to make a blanket statement about people's, the whys and the wherefores and the categorizing people. That's not my intent here. But there's a lot of people who got away from the war. A lot of people who left countries in war, a lot of people who had, difficult experiences, but at some level, and it may not be a very conscious level, and it's certainly not my intent to say that people choose the terrible things that happen to them. I'm not saying that at all.
Not consciously.
But we have a reason for what we go through. And that reason is usually not from this lifetime. Okay? And I'm not talking about karma being a payback system where you did something wrong and you're going to pay for it. No. What we're here to do is go through experiences that take us sometimes through the most horrendous experiences to find peace, to find love, to find forgiveness, and to find what it is, that we really want. Free will. And those experiences can be incredibly horrible. But they don't have to be. And I think what's happening now is we're moving into a time where the horrific experiences no longer need to happen. The faster we can learn, the more that we are willing to experiment with our capacity for conscious creation, the less horrific things need to be.
Is it possible that people actually choose to come? I mean, it seems possible to me that people could actually not want peace, like they actually came to Earth, planet Earth, for the sole intention of experiencing war, or
it could be, because this realm of Earth has certainly had its share of war, but outside of physical, there's not a lot of actual negative energies, We tend to anthropomorphize. We tend to take our understanding of human beings and paste it all over the angels and the higher selves, and it's not like that at all. When we come here, we step down our vibration. We come out of a place of connection with divine love. We come into free will. We don't have the need to explore free will in the other realms because there's nothing to go against it.
But it seems that, when we say we want peace, like, it's sort of a standing joke in some place. It used to be all of the women's pageants. It used to be a joke that they would all say they wanted world peace, and that, and it's not a joke, but at the same time,
I want world peace, but I want to be right.
Well, yeah, but that sense of having peace in the world, it would seem with the various political situations and so forth that there's a lot of money to be made by having wars, and there may be people who simply desire war for whatever reasons. They have a passion for it. They like it. They whatever. It seems odd.
Some people have a very powerful. Well, all of us have that. War is not something out there. War is something within us. Every time we put ourselves down, every time we have an opinion or a judgment against ourselves or against another person, that is war. That is a vibration that goes out and supports that kind of energy in a big way out in the world. So where is war going to be stopped? In us. Not out there. It's never going to be stopped out there until we get to be at peace with ourselves.
But there are people who are at peace with themselves. And
there are.
But is that what you're saying?
A lot of them don't choose to come here, but this is a place that probably tests people's ability to be at peace quite a bit.
But there probably are people on the planet that are have peace. So I'm saying, so they're experiencing peace in regardless of what else is going on around them, and that's part of why, I wanted to talk about this conscious creation as opposed to by default. That's what I...
a really good point, is we're not going to make it peaceful out there. We're going to find peace inside ourselves, especially as we step into conscious creation in a bigger and bigger way. It has to be within ourselves. There could be bombs going off all around us. And we can be at peace. We can be totally in alignment with ourselves. It's absolutely true. It's not about what's going on outside. In fact, that's one of the big tests that highly spiritual beings can, come here to experience is, Mother Teresa in India, how much discord can you put yourself in and maintain your peace?
Wow, yeah. But, right. And and that would be a very obvious for most of us to see someone like that. But
well, look at Gandhi. He was such a high vibration being. He had a whole country absolutely, begging him to eat and everything based, people living their lives based on what, he was doing, because he was such an amazing man, and he lived, he was in the midst of war. He led people in battles, but as peaceful. Yeah.
Yeah, in nonviolent communication, I get that, but what I'm wondering is, if I can get to, through that conscious creation, if I can get to peace, are you saying, because I had the feeling, and I don't know why, but that there would come a time where this entire planet, we eventually would have peace.
We have had peace on this planet, and we will have it again, not too distant future. The time of aggression and war is over, because that part of our learning to be in the physical realm is done. We have made a choice as a planet to not go there anymore, and that's a choice that is kind of irrevocable, and we are not in an energy where that's possible anymore. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I like that.
However, at this point, we are the ones who are changing it. One person or 10 or 100 or 1,000 people at a time choosing peace in each moment. And we have techniques. And since we don't have a lot of time left, maybe we could jump into some techniques here. We've been talking in the abstract. The techniques, one of the biggest gifts we have is the Ho'oponopono prayer.
Yes.
Because as soon as we enter that realm of forgiveness, I love you, I apologize, please forgive me, thank you, or whatever form people choose to use. That's my own idiosyncratic form. We've talked about it before. But as soon as we start saying forgiveness, and we understand the concept of forgiveness, that it is an opening to, none of this is really true, what is this about me? And from this place where I'm recognizing that I'm creating everything, I'm asking you to forgive me for seeing you in this static way that is making you wrong, or, forgiveness has a huge connotation here, but it's a place where we're saying, listen, I'm not believing the circumstances of what I've created here, or what we have together created between us. Please forgive me. And that forgiveness brings in all of the angelic realm, all of the divine energy of truth, that we are the same, that we're from the same creative parent, where, that we are like the two thumbs on our two hands, That's us. So when we use that Ho'oponopono prayer, we are stepping outside of the physical realm of every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and we step into a realm where we're going, okay, I know what looks like here, but I'm not actually believing that that's true. Okay. I know I have an opinion, a judgment. I've set up a whole 20 lifetime experience of what could happen here, and I choose to not be in that belief any longer. And I'm choosing really fast here.
Yes.
Because I can see how this could play out.
And it's powerful.
It is so powerful. So I find myself with the Ho'oponopono prayer using it for everything. When I find myself, getting into crankiness about people, and I stop myself and I go, hey, wait, do I want more of that? No, come on. I don't want more of that. I don't feel good. I don't like feeling angry. This is a waste of my time. Let's get to the good stuff. Okay, whatever I think's going on here, it doesn't matter. I'm using the prayer. And then I'm giving it off to other hands who see the bigger picture than I do.
But there isn't anything
happening.
But there isn't anything wrong with And we should. I think it's important to feel the anger, to allow the anger, to recognize it, but we just don't have to stay in it.
That's right. That's right. Anger is an emotion. It's like happiness. It's like sadness. It's just an emotion, and it's an emotion that's very, very energizing when we use it. When we use it, not against the outer world, but inside of us to propel us. It's like a prayer. I'm really angry about this, and I don't go on anymore. That's an affirmation. This has got to stop. Or, geez, what am I missing here? Why do I feel so mad about this? You know, it's the question is then asked, an opening is created.
Yeah, I like that.
Be our best friend. But it's a powerful one, and it needs to be used with wisdom and care. So
I agree.
That's one technique, the Ho'oponopono prayer. Another one is just to look at, this is really conscious creation. Okay, my life is the way it is, and I want X. And X can be anything. X can be security, money, happiness. It can be a trip to Mexico. It can be whatever. And as we start looking at that, we have that most of our wants, they seem pretty generalized. So first of all, cut them down into small bits. What do you really want? You say you want security, and quite often that means people saying, I want money. So what do you want the money for? Is it really money you want? You want pieces of metal or pieces of paper in your hand? Why? What's it going to get you? Okay, look at what it's going to get you. What do you want it to get you? So skip out the middleman here. Don't make it be about money. And the same thing with security. What are you saying? I don't want to feel afraid. Okay, boy, you start asking for security, and right away the universe experiences step in that start taking away our fear. And what's one of the major ways of our fear being taken away? Fearful experiences. So, oftentimes, much better to cut out the middleman there and say, listen, I'd rather have the patience right now rather than learning to be patient. Okay? I'd rather have a trip to Tahiti than the job that's going to make me the money to go to Tahiti. Okay, I want the trip to Tahiti. And, what do I want from the trip to Tahiti? I want sunshine, warm water.
That's an
relaxing.
Easy one. Right.
And I want to feel real comfortable with it, I want to feel safe and secure. Like, this is how you create your dreams. You look at the things that you have built up into this dream. You cut it all apart into the component pieces. You let go of the ones that are about fear, and you go for the gusto of what you really want. And then when you find that out, then you refine that, you build that up to exactly what you want. I had a lady in a class I was at once who had exactly the car she wanted. As soon as she figured out that she didn't have to wait for the money to come to her, that she could just go for the car, well, she knew what she wanted, the mileage, the color, the kind of seats, the age of it, how she'd feel in it. This is the number one thing, is how are you going to feel when you have that? Because it's not, the next step is when you've decided all the parameters of what you want, then you need to bring in your emotions, because emotions, remember, is what propels us towards pleasure or away from pain. Using the emotions, using feelings to get us to what we want, use the feelings that are about pleasure, that are about enjoyment. That'll get you to where you want. So associate what's the feeling that when you're in Tahiti? What's the feeling you want? So when you're imagining Tahiti and all the great things you're going to do there and not just feeling the sun on your shoulders and you're going to hear the music and you're going to taste the cocktail. You're going to feel the water lapping around your ankles. Okay? And you're going to feel, I'm so relaxed. Isn't this great? I'm having the best time ever. And look, isn't that a gorgeous view? So a repertoire of good feelings is really helpful for us to pull up feelings from other situations we've had where we've enjoyed ourselves that kind of define what we want more of. That repertoire of feelings, we need to get really good at infusing what we really want with those feelings. And another good thing about infusing things with good feelings is you're going to come up against your hidden fears when you start not feeling them. Oh, all of a sudden, lost that feeling. Oh, what happened there? Oh, I remembered the dog, or I remembered the guy in the red hat. There's a fear. And then we can start working with our conscious creation. We can start working with our forgivenesses. We can start working with our affirmations to dissolve our fears, as well as to uphold and build what we want. So it's a two-way thing. We use them to let go of what we don't want, and we use it to kind of go within and to kind of be detectives and find those lurking fears and to heal them. And
so when we're going into this feeling of we're bypassing the money and going straight to what it is we want, our fear will come up?
Yes, fears will always come up as we approach them because that's their job. You know, our fears are what protects us and keeps us safe in our body. So anything that's tucked down in the subconscious. So if we're afraid that, somebody's going to see us and think that we're too well off and we'll be punished for being seen as having too much fun or being too wealthy or any of the myriad of millions of reasons that we have to be afraid, then we can start to just bless that fear, let it go, say the affirmations to heal it, or just plain surrender to it and surrender to, what we want.
Okay.
That's a really good one. Surrendering to what we want.
Another thing, Debbie, we're going to touch on curiosity, and I kind of think it would be just great if you could just touch on that a little bit, because I know that we have talked about it before, and it's sort of living in the question is kind of the way that I think about it, is to always being curious, but. Is that curiosity about what wants to happen and that how does that affect our conscious creation by having that?
Is conscious creation, because at a certain point when we start looking at past what seems to be fixed and solid in our world, this exploration of ourselves and what could be becomes very alluring, and that's where our curiosity comes. Oh, what if? What is this? What is that? And it becomes the replacement motivation for what interests in our life. It replaces fear as a goad or a whip to get us to, do what we think we should do or what others think we should do. So it becomes the new fun, the new reason.
Okay, so how often when, you decide somebody's listening to this and they're saying, okay, all right, I'm going to do it. How often does a person say affirmations or ask the questions or, how often do they practice that?
Every second. 90 times a second. As often as it takes. We were listening to that video about Bashar. Okay, well, Bashar, in that video that we saw of Bashar, he talks about how we have these pictures that create the movie of our life. And if we have negative pictures, there could be as many as, I'll say 1,000 a second. That's a good number. I think it was more for him. Every time we have a negative picture, how do we dissolve that picture? With affirmations. So how often are we consciously or unconsciously aware of our life? Is the better that we get at this process, the more conscious we are of our thoughts, the more quickly we can move into an affirmation being a statement of what we want in that moment in a positive, present tense, believing kind of way. Until we get so good at it that we're creating our world all the time. Now, there comes a point, and this is another stepping stone, where all of this becomes kind of moot. Like this is just a kind of a transition point where we start doing conscious creation. Because at a certain point, what we start realizing is we don't have to struggle with this at all. At a certain point, when we have cleaned up our thoughts and our subconscious and everything else around us so much, we can instantly create. And so sometimes the question is, how do we keep from creating what we don't want? But what we start seeing is the hand of God. And I call it the hand of God just because that's a nice little phrase to remind me that there's a divine process going on here where all we actually need to do, and all that our affirmations do really, is to put us in touch with this whole very natural process of creation that is God, that is divinity. Divinity is nothing but love and creation all together. Divinity is in creation all the time. And when we really get in touch with that process, we don't need to work at it. It is our nature to create.
Well, I was just going to say that we are all, what it sounds like to me a lot is that you are talking about putting a different program in our brain, our mind, that's already programmed and saying, it's already
Actually, it's not putting a program in. What it is erasing fear programs that have been put in.
Yeah, but
all we are doing is erasing stuff and forgetting the wrong ideas, letting go of concrete judgments and opinions so that who we really are can come to the forefront. My friend calls it polishing up the crystal of our personality so that our spirit shines through without any scratches or flaws.
Nice. Well, all I mean is that when we think about conscious creating, we are creating anyway, and it's just that we're doing it by default. And so what you're talking about is when we say these things over and over again, we're like you say, erasing the old fear-based program so that the program that is playing is one of love, not fear. Yes. And so that's when we're creating what we want, because we're doing it from that place of empowered, positive...
and truth. We're just in truth then.
Yeah, and our self-talk is
curiosity. Truth is curiosity.
Mm.
You know, we are curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
We're curiosity. That's what we are. Curiosity incarnate.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to kind of take it from the, it's not like we're not doing this already. We are doing it. And it's
all
just the difference between how we're going to do it, choosing to do it in a way that's beneficial or more pleasurable, I guess, is how I see it.
You can notice, I have two young friends that I know of that I'm using kind of as the opposite ends of a very unreal and untrue spectrum. One was brought up in a family where basically she had wise parents who provided for her only child. You know, her family delighted in supporting her in whatever she wanted. She's a beautiful girl. She kind of, had a fairy tale existence in a very earthly way. And so in her life, she goes along and, by gum, great things happen to her. She's not full of fear about this, that, and the other. If she wants to go somewhere, do something, she does it. She doesn't have a lot of struggle. Another girl, her family broke up when she was young. There was some poverty. She ended up living on the street for a while and having some, problems with drugs and a few other things that were just really, you would say, not fair things for this lovely person. She learned from them, but she still carries the scars of her fears and the struggles that, she learned as a child, and things don't come all that easily to her, or when they do come easily, she loses them.
Right.
And I'm not saying that those are inevitable things, and I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm not saying that at all.
No.
I'm saying that they're just different ways that different people choose to come here.
And
they're also not indicators of where they'll end up in any way.
And they're also, what you're saying is that once we become aware that sometimes, we did come from a fear-based family, or we did come from, but we can change it. We can choose different now. Whereas before, it felt like a lot, it was set in stone. If you came from
I have to say, one of the most profound things that anybody ever said to me, touched me deep within my core, was, I had
Debbie, you're cutting out for some reason.
Oh, okay. How's that?
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Because I don't know, there's a beeping going on.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Phone's plugged in. Anyways, she was, my friend had a different life than me. It wasn't easier, but maybe more regular and supported, more security in some ways. And, she's done amazing things with her life, and she doesn't have a lot of fears. Whereas, and at one time she said to me, "Wow, Debbie, you really have had a hard life. Things have not been easy for you." And it was just like this incredible thing that just entered my heart. It pierced my heart. And it's like, there was my thought right after that, oh my God, I've chosen it all along. She's really seen how I have created struggle. And I was able to look at all the things in my life where fear had stopped me dead, stopped me from taking risks and moving into my dreams. And she had moved into her dreams in a different way. She didn't have an expectation. She had an expectation that she would be well off, and I didn't, based on our family backgrounds.
Wow.
And it was the greatest gift because on one hand, she saw me. She said something lovingly, not blamingly. She looked at me and from her point of view, she recognized that there were things that had been happening that seemed outside of my control until I got a sense from her feedback at that particular time in my life when I could see it for what it was. It was like, oh, gosh, I've been creating all of that.
Wow.
And there was this wave of sadness, but also joy that, I don't actually have to do that anymore.
Yeah. If I created that, I can create something else. And that's the key, that's the beauty of this. That's what I see as the beauty of this understanding conscious creation, is that we don't have to stay in that kind of situations that we have, created, that we thought, oh, this is my path. So, I've heard that so many times. Oh, well, that's just my path. Well, it doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't.
And it's not about
an overnight thing. This is a lifetime and lifetimes of practice. Mm-hmm. This is what we came here to learn. This is the journey. So, we can turn our habits of beating ourselves up into this same route. We can do the new wine in old wineskins if we choose to. Mm-hmm. But my encouragement is for everyone to be the most loving they can to themselves and the most forgiving, and get rid of those voices in our heads that, give us the negative feedback, the judge and jury that causes us to justify ourselves and to, fight with ourselves, and just to open ourselves to being as loving as we can and kind to ourselves, because it's actually a huge, huge thing to do this.
Mhm. It is. Mm-hmm. And it is. When we do it for ourselves, we end up doing it for everyone around us. So
absolutely.
There's nothing more joyful than, and you can feel it when you're around someone who actually truly loves themselves. It's rare. Yeah. It's rare today, but it's more and more, and I'm more hopeful to see it more and more too. So
I think that we can notice that as we love ourselves more, the people who are more loving show up in our world. So sometimes it's not that they're not there, it's just that we're not putting ourselves in their presence. We haven't risen to that vibration enough.
Mhm. Mhm. That's right. We haven't expected it. we didn't think we deserved it, and that all changes
and we're not
when you
seeing it sometimes when it's there too.
Well, that's awesome, Debbie. I think that is a beautiful way for us to end our deep discussion tonight, and I want to let people know that to go, if you want to have a private session with Debbie, you want to get some insight, because she does do not like this, obviously, but private sessions where you personally have that connection with Debbie, and she can help you with whatever it is that might be troubling you on your path to consciousness. So are you good with it, Debbie? Are you feeling complete?
I'm feeling like this is a subject that could go on, and for tonight, I think that you've got it at the perfect place to wrap it up and kiss it goodnight.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's awesome, and I really appreciate all that you are giving for the show and to share these insights, because I really do think they're making a difference in people's lives. Feedback I get is people love to go deep with us, so I think that's a good reason to keep on having the fun that we are. So thank you. Thank you so much. And to all of you listening, I really appreciate you joining us and your sharing and letting other people know about the show. It's growing by word of mouth, which is the perfect way to spread these messages. Thank you so much. Until next time, take care.
Wasn't that amazing? Thank you to my guests for sharing with us today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share the link. You can join us for live shows by going to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com and listen to the replays from the show page, preview guests, and explore links to our Facebook fan page, WordPress blog, and more. We are creating an exquisite world. Until next time, take care.